Big news this afternoon for West Ham as Wolves have accepted our bid of £40 million for their captain Max Kilman, and I think this is a very important deal, not necessarily for West Ham or for Tim Steidten, but for our head coach Julen Lopetegui. As soon as he was appointed, there was two names in particular strongly linked to us that these were his priority targets for the summer transfer window: Max Kilman and Alex Garcia. Now, the Garcia rumour died as quickly as it started, as he joined Bayer Leverkusen pretty early on in the summer transfer window. And since then especially, it's all been about Max Kilman. That is Lopetegui's number one transfer target. Not his preferred centre-back, his number one target out of everybody. Forget your strikers, your midfielders, your fullbacks, your goalkeepers. It's Max Kilman that Lopetegui really wants and deems crucial to what he wants to achieve at West Ham next season. And it looks like he's going to get his man. Now, there's a little bit of confirmation bias here because I've always been confident of us getting him. A bit more expensive than I thought. Now, a lot more expensive than I would have liked at £40 million. However, I don't think the negotiations have been easy because of that sell-on clause. And let's face it, the real winners out of this transfer is Maidenhead. They're set to scoop up to £8 million. Loads of money for a non-league side. I can't imagine what that's going to do for Maidenhead. But when they sold Kilman to Wolves, they've got that sell-on clause of 15 to 20%. So they're going to scoop big money. But I think that put Wolves in a difficult position. So when they said they wanted 45 million for him, they had to stick to their guns as much as possible, knowing they're going to give up a large chunk of that money to Maidenhead. And I think that might have made it difficult for us, because we didn't exactly meet in the middle. Now, our first bid of 25 million was always going to be rejected, and it was rejected very quickly. Our second bid of money plus a player, believed to be Danny Ings, was swiftly rejected, understandably too. But our third bid of 40 million appears to have got it done. Now, there is a report that Tim Steidten is also still negotiating with Nice over Jean-Claire Todibo. Now, whether that's to play alongside Kilman, we're going to go get both, or it's an alternative to Kilman, so it's maybe just not quite decided yet that we're going to get Kilman, but we've got the deal done with Wolves while we're working on the Nice one. So there might be a late curveball into this transfer rumour. However, I strongly believe now, I was always pretty confident, but I'm even more confident now that Max Kilman will be a West Ham player next season. And I think it's a crucial one for our head coach. Now, I'd like to discuss the player, the deal, and what this means for those already at the club going forward, and start with Max Kilman himself. I think he's a good Premier League centre-back, a solid Premier League centre-back as well. 27 years old, and he's just turned 27. He's basically going to be 27 for the entirety of next season, bar the last game against Ipswich Town, where he will be 28. So there's a really good age profile attached to him as well. Left-footed, but very comfortable in possession with his right foot as well. Capable of playing out from the back and dribbling out from the back, we've seen on some occasions too. And I think he will fit the way the Lopetegui plays. Now, that's a bit of a no-brainer, hence why Lopetegui really wants him. And that gives me a lot of reassurance, because as a neutral, all you can do is judge on what you've seen him do in a Wolves shirt. But when Lopetegui's managed him previously and really wants him at West Ham, that gives me an extra layer, an extra bit of comfort blanket, if you like, in terms of his character, because Lopetegui obviously clearly likes him. And there's a lot of belief, and I include myself in this, that Kilman will become the West Ham captain next season. Now, obviously, that would be easier if Kurt Zouma has moved on in the summer, because he'd have to pick a new captain anyway. I think it's a big call changing your skipper, but again, I think it's a little bit more acceptable when it's a new head coach compared to the previous manager perhaps changing captain in the summer and the old captain is still at the club going forward. I think that can be a bit of an awkward situation. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Kilman with the armband on the first game of the season. Good player. 40 million, like I said, I think it's too much. I don't think he's worth 40 million. I think there's better players out there that would represent better value for money. But the reason I'm pleased we're getting this done is because Lopetegui really wants him. And that leads on to the next topic, which is the relationship with him and Tim Steidten. It's been very promising so far. There's little evidence, but what they're saying, and Lopetegui clearly keeps on referring to Tim Steidten being in charge of the transfer window, and I like that. But as I've always said, and I will keep on maintaining, I think it's healthy that your head coach has an input into the transfer window, the transfer targets. It's up to Tim Steidten. I think he should maintain control. He should ultimately make the final decision. So while Lopetegui really wants Kilman, I still think it should be down to Tim Steidten to say yay or nay to try and get the deal done. And working on the Todibo one as well to provide an alternative, it's not the worst idea in the world, because if we can get that done for 30 million, I'm not saying we could, but say hypothetically we managed to get something agreed with Nice for 30 million, suddenly it's a case of, well, we've got options here. What one do we really want to go with? But I'm really pleased that Steidten is listening to Lopetegui's input, because he said, this is the guy I want. I really want Max Kilman. And if it's the only player that Lopetegui's sort of allowed to choose, or allowed to influence, if you like, for this transfer window, then that's okay as well. But I think for now it feels like we've got a real healthy balance between Steidten and Lopetegui, which isn't something we necessarily had under David Moyes. And I've discussed it in another video. I don't want to just repeat myself too much, but coming into this transfer window, my big hope was that disagreement, if you like, would be gone. And at the minute, I've got more hope now off the back of this Kilman deal getting agreed that those have been removed. I think it might also give Lopetegui a bit more trust in Tim Steidten. Obviously, they've got a bit of a working relationship now, and they have first impressions, and they're still basing everything on first impressions of each other. They're speaking on the regular, as they've informed us, which you would expect and hope. But I think if Lopetegui knows that the guy in charge of the transfer window is willing to back him in the transfer market with a substantial amount of cash as well, that's got to give Lopetegui reassurances with Tim Steidten. My concern to some extent with Lopetegui getting the role was how is he going to cope under David Sullivan? Because he walked out of Wolves because he believed he was lied to. And I thought, I was a bit jokey. I was a bit, good luck with Sullivan. What, you're going to be walking out as soon as you see what Sullivan's like in the transfer window. But there is an element of truth to that, where I had concerns that we have a repeat of the January transfer window in the summer. Is Lopetegui going to stand for that? Well, he's just shown us at Wolves that he won't. So why would he put up with that West Ham? And the fact that we've moved quickly, and we have moved quickly here. Pre-season begun yesterday. 24 hours ago was the first training session of the summer for West Ham. Today the bid's accepted. By Monday, Kilman could be a West Ham player. So we've moved quickly. Steidten has moved quickly to get the man that Lopetegui wants and deems crucial. And I think that's got to give our new head coach reassurance about the club and about Tim Steidten going forward. And it gives me reassurance about the dynamic of the two as well. Now, in terms of the transfer deal, this has to work. This has to work. Tim Steidten will be judged on signings like Guilherme. Now, that's down to Lopetegui to integrate him into the first team and make it work as well. Of course it is. But if Lopetegui gives him a chance, and he gives him a good chance and keeps putting him in the first team, giving him opportunities, but it turns out it was just a bad signing and a waste of money, that's on Tim Steidten. But this deal, Kilman, should it go through, is firmly on the door of Lopetegui. Now, previously, managers would, and this is what David Moyes always used to say, managers will be sort of decided on his transfers. You will do or die with your transfers. Those players you bring in will either keep you in a job or get you sacked, essentially. And I think we're moving away from that in football a little bit. I don't think Lopetegui will be judged on the transfer window. I think it'll be Tim Steidten. But Lopetegui will be very much judged on how Max Kilman gets on. Because A, he's sort of demanded him. He's really wanted him. But B, it's a lot of money. 40 million. Now, I don't know how much we've got to spend. We've all seen the rumours. 50, 60 million is what we've got left to spend in the transfer window. I don't necessarily believe them. I don't think anybody knows what the well, certain people know what the transfer budget is. I don't think people outside of the club know what the transfer budget is. And that's the way it should be. Tim Steidten alluded to it in the press conference with Lopetegui. If we've got money to spend, we don't have to sell before we buy. And it was a case of, well, come on then, let's see. But regardless of what the transfer budget is, I don't think it's 50 million. But I tell you what, I also don't think it's 150 million. 40 million is still a lot of money. Even if it was 100 million left, it's still 40 million. That's a huge chunk of the transfer kitty to go on to Kilman. So Lopetegui has been backed by David Sullivan in terms of being brought to West Ham. He's been backed by Tim Steidten when Steidten met him for the first time, then deciding actually, yep, I'm on board with your decision, let's get Lopetegui in, because it wasn't Steiden's first choice initially, that was Ruben Amorim. And now he's been backed again, and this time in a different way in the transfer window with 40 million. So there you go, we'll go get you your centre back that you really want. And I think this will be the sort of the domino effect for West Ham. And this is why I've been calm. I've been very calm. Those that tune in regular know I'm chilled about the transfer window. Business will get done. Like I said, 40 million for Kilman, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it worries me a little bit. But I always put what I think to one side, because it's more important that Lopetegui gets the guy he wants than I get to see the guy that I want at West Ham. It's far more important that the head coach is backed than I as a fan am satisfied with the transfer business. But Lopetegui getting the guy that he wants is important to me. I think this is a big tick in that box. But going forward, the domino effect, it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off because, let's just say Kilman signs tomorrow. Our centre-backs are now Mavropanos, Zuma, Agard, Kilman. That's a good collection of individual players there. Now, obviously, we want to sell Agard. The asking price is believed to be between 30, 38 million. If we could get 25 million back for Agard, I think that's fair. 25 million back for Agard. That gives us a lot of wiggle room going forward to get in another centre-back to replace Agard. Good business. We've got Kilman in the door. Happy days. The last thing we want to do is sell Agard first, and then suddenly, hang on a minute, now we're under serious pressure to get a centre-back in. I think we can relax a little bit. It's not finished. We still need a lot of business. We still need a right-back. Must be near the top of the priority list. An attacking player for the left side of the pitch, I think, is near the top priority list. A striker, another centre-back, a centre midfielder. There's still a lot of business to be done. But I do feel like this is the most important one, actually. Not necessarily because it's Max Kilman. Like I said, put your personal opinion of the player to one side for the next minute. I think this is the most important signing because A, it's Lopetegui's main man, and B, it's a substantial investment into a centre-back because we leaked a lot of goals last season. We need a centre-back, and it just allows us now to sell Agard. I think this is the key. This signing is the key one that will hopefully allow us to bring more players in. Because Lopetegui's got his man, hopefully he can allow Steidten to be a bit more influential in the other transfers going forward. And I'm feeling even more hopeful. If we can get this one over the line in the next few days, I'll be a very happy hammer. But not only will I be happy, more importantly, our head coach will be really happy too. Good business from West Ham. Like I said, 40 million, chunky, overpriced. But he's a good, solid centre-back in the Premier League. But it's Lopetegui's number one choice. And that's the important thing here.